Welcome to Wash Talk. I'm your host, Brian Ankey. Today my guest is Steve Savastano from Rudolf Technologies. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
Hey, I'd like to get started with a little bit about your career path that led you to where you are today and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, my background is chemical engineering. As I started, I'm first generation Italian, so family and immigrants that came over, learned my way through school and then ended ultimately and became a chemical engineer at Michigan Tech. Left, once I graduated, went to work for Dow Corning, one of the largest or the largest silicone producer in the world, and spent some time in a whole host of industries, one of them in auto care. Shortly after being with them for about 11 years, spending time in Europe and Japan and Korea, a whole host of market segments and industries, left and worked for another small formulator in Duncan, South Carolina, where we were making silicone polymers for the textile industry. We grew that business, sold it to Wacker, left there, and then started my company, Access Technologies, in 2005. We were manufacturing primarily silicone-based products, polymers, emulsions, foam control agents, as well as not only for the auto industry, but the construction industry and several other segments. In 2021, formed a joint venture with a large German manufacturer, especially chemicals, primarily in the textile industry. They had a facility in Rock Hill, South Carolina. We are now set up our manufacturing, R&D, product development, along with our sales, marketing, and then our customer service group is in Rock Hill. The exciting part for me about the joint venture, they have a whole host of silicone technologies that can be used in a number of the industries we participate in, but one of the biggest ones is in the auto care. So a lot of the reactive chemistries that are currently in the auto care industry, they have being used in the textile industry and things we also make. So it's been a real good fit for us. Nice. So I've spent about 40 years in the silicone industry and the last 20 years in the auto care industry.
Nice. You know, silicone has a long history in automotive. I mean, almost as long as Babcock's history.
Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit about, the history of silicone and its use in automotive?
Yeah, one of the attractiveness to silicones is that it's got the refractive index of glass. So it's the material that actually gives you that high shine that everybody likes in their car polish. The other thing is it's got a reactive nature to it that also gives you the durability. So there was a product that came out in the day from Blue Coral called Blue Poly. It was the first polymeric paint protectant in the industry. And it was based on silicone reactive polymers along with their silicone fluids that give the gloss. And it was the rage. And for the longest time, they dominated the industry with its ability to protect and give durability and shine to cars. And soon, right now, it's a staple across a whole host of polishes out there. There's not probably, if it has anything to do with protection or shine, there's a silicone that's giving you that performance.
Cool. Well, let's talk about ceramics and hybrid ceramics. Sure. You hear about hybrid ceramics and true ceramics. Can you kind of explain, what's the difference and, what's the benefit of each?
Yeah. Well, the industry has always been known for, let's say, claims or twists on the reality of what's out there. When you look at a true ceramic, as most people know, it's a certain type of backbone or chemistry that, in the case of auto care, there are ceramic coatings. They're the ones that you see that has to be professionally applied that will last 2, 3, 4 years of protection. That's a true ceramic, but it's not user-friendly, has to be professionally applied. Well, the marketing teams at these retail products have decided that, well, since it's based on a silicone quartz type chemistry, they've now decided to work with these highly reactive polymeric silicones to give that protection. And actually what they've done is some of these reactive polymers, they've just raised the level to give you even longer durability. So the hybrid is basically a silicone reactive polymer with the SIO sort of claim that's present. And so you'll get some very good protection, far better than what you'd seen in the past. Not nearly to a true ceramic, but certainly good enough for the consumer to get 6 months to 2 years, depending on the amount of polymeric reactive silicone in the product.
So you're basically what you're saying is that's something you can spray on during the car wash process, and you'll get 6 months to 2 years of protection?
Yeah, with the right type of application, that type of chemistry is out there.
Wow. Now, is that something that I mean, if you've got a membership and you roll through the car wash once a week, is there any downside to getting that applied, every week?
Not really, because at some point the silicone won't stick to itself.
Oh.
So if you put enough of a protection down, and pretty soon all the nooks and crannies and imperfections are covered, then with time it won't really build up because it won't be able to stick to a silicone. Because silicones, for the most part, have a tough time sticking to itself.
I got you.
Because they're designed to release.
Oh, so basically any imperfection, it's gonna fill in all the gaps basically, and then once it's got a force field over your vehicle, the new silicone has nothing to grab.
That's right.
Okay.
Right. And then that's also difficult, but that would be, if you're driving down the road in different parts of the country, especially like in Arizona or Nevada, where you've got sand and grit in the air, it'll all ultimately get etched again. So the new treatment is probably going to be recommended.
Oh, cool.
So just the general environment, typically reapplying it, you're not going to get much of a buildup because with time it will get wore off.
Well, I do a lot of fishing and I'm in the saltwater a lot. I probably need to get more silicone put on.
Well, you want the reactive stuff.
The reactive stuff.
Yeah. You want to look for that reactive silicone. It'll bond and give you the protection. And that's really what gives you that protection. It's reactive polymers that we make and several of the other people make. Our niche is primarily specialty reactive polymers. And usually those are the ones that are giving you the protection. The silicone fluids are giving you the gloss.
Well, I want to ask you the $1 million question.
Sure.
What is the best way to wash a car, protect a car, and do it at a decent speed?
That's a good question because there's so many factors that go into, and you're talking to a tunnel wash primarily?
Let's start with tunnel.
Okay. Well, the first off, the pre-soaks are important. You want to get all the grit off the car. So, typically these cars that come in pretty dirty, you're going to need a pre-soak. Then you're going to have the right detergent that goes down. And after the actually detergent and rinse cycles, when they start to apply the drying aids or the protectant side. And there's a number of ways of doing that. And with the car, after it's been soaked, it's got a bit of an anionic nature to the surface. Some of our reactive polymers that are cationic will go in and break and adhere very quickly. And that's really where the silicone plays its biggest role. It's to deposit, break, and get protection after the wash cycle.
What about sustainability? I mean, it's at the top of everybody's mind right now. I mean, states are coming up with regulations, cities have regulations. What do you see taking place?
Well, in the car wash industry, there's some material out there that today they even use the term cheater wax. Mm-hmm. And basically it's based on an active dispersed in mineral seal oil, which is a hydrocarbon, and then water and a little bit of surfactant. And in the day, it does work. It goes down, helps sheet the water off, and gives a little bit of gloss. But that material has got a significant amount of mineral seal oil, which when it goes through the reclamation area or into the sewer can be a problem from an environmental impact. Mm-hmm. And more states are regulating out any hydrocarbons going into the sewer system or into the water system. Even the reclamation areas are having issues with hydrocarbons. We've got several chemistries that are replacing, we'll call it the cheater wax systems, that are lower dosage, water-based, and significantly more environmentally friendly. Mm-hmm. It's just an education, and it's a bit of a paradigm shift for the industry, but it's coming. There's no way around it. It's becoming more and more of an issue, whether it's the hydrocarbon going into the sewer systems and being managed at the municipality, or the reduction of water in the car wash system. Mm-hmm. So we're moving in that direction. We've got several chemistries to replace the current hydrocarbon chemistries that's out there.
Cool. Well, you have a statement that I love. In God we trust. Everybody else better bring data.
That's right.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Sure. It's a saying I think the R&D staff is tired of me saying, but as an industry, which has changed over the years. When I first started, there was a fair amount of gimmickry. The term snake oil salespeople was used quite heavily because there was a lot of people making pretty broad claims about what their product can do. In the last probably 10 years, there's a fair amount of people and technical people getting involved in the industry that actually are engaged in developing data to support what they want to claim. And so in our when I put the team together, we're all about generating data. As I said, in God we trust, everybody must bring data. And so when we go to a customer, we'll talk to them about our product versus someone else's product, or we'll pull a retail product. And we've done a tremendous amount of data with several ceramic or hybrid ceramic retail products. And we'll use contact angle and wash so many washes to see how that contact angle changes. What do you mean by contact angle? Well, when the water beads up on a surface, that bead has a certain angle. And as that contact angle goes down, the bead begins to flatten, or you're starting to lose the performance of your product on the surface. So we've generated a tremendous amount of data, not only after so many shampoos, but also against alkaline bug removers. So we'll show you some data here shortly about some of the work we do in the lab, and our testing capabilities and the data generation that we do. And ultimately, it's gaining a lot of traction with our customers because many of our competitors aren't generating data. They're just handing someone a sample and say, hey, this stuff will do X. Well, in our case, we'll hand them a sample of our product doing X, and here's the data to support it.
What does that look like? Inside your lab, what does that look like? What are some of the techniques you're using to generate all this data?
That's a great question. We've got a contact angle measurement, an actual instrument where we'll take a panel that we've cleaned, and then we'll measure the contact angle clean, and then we'll apply a polish, whether it's a quick detailer or a polish, and we'll measure the contact angle after 24 hours. Give the chance the polymer to cure up and rest. Measure the contact angle. Then we'll apply a wash. One wash, measure the contact angle. 2 washes, contact angle 3, 4, 5. And we'll see how that contact angle changes. Well, that's a direct relationship to how durable that polish or that polymer is on the surface. Because of that, that's where the data comes in. We're able to go to customers and show them, your product is more durable or less durable than this other product, whether it's a competitor or a retail product. Or we'll develop our own formulas and run studies to generate interest in the customer. So we do that. The other thing we do is we do a roll-off test. What's a roll-off test? Basically, we take that same panel, we'll set it on an instrument that will measure that at 50 degrees, everything should roll off at 50 degrees. Well, when does it start to not roll off? And we'll measure and we'll score it. There are some things as low as a 5-degree incline, the droplet will start to roll off.
Really, it's probably hard to even see 5 degrees with your eyes.
Right.
I mean, that probably looks flat.
It does. And it's exciting to see things like that happen. So we've actually had some materials have even below 5%. Those are rare, but we'll do generation of data. So we have roll-off data, and our mind is how slick or smooth that surface is. Again, it's not subjective. It's very objective. And then we've got the durability contact angle. Those 2 pieces of data are good for several things. One, it allows someone to build a true marketing campaign with data to support it, especially if you're going to go out and advertise. And today's generation of being able to support what you say is pretty important especially when you're a tier 1 supplier on TV or doing YouTube videos.
Now, how does like climate? You brought up earlier in the interview, if you're out in the Southwest, you've got sand involved. Do you take that into account if you're developing for somebody that had in the Southwest versus somebody that's in the Northeast? They're very different environments. How do you allow for that inside of the lab?
That's a good question. There are some things called weatherometers, but when you talk about an environmental condition, those are difficult to replicate in the lab. So normally we'll talk with the customer in Arizona or in New Mexico or in Texas and have them do their own panel tests. What most our customers do, actually take a hood of a car, piece of tape down the middle, treat one side and treat the other side, and then drive it around for a week and see if the contact angles change. And in that case, it's more visual. Oh, wow. But we could also have them send us the panels, and we could do the contact angle measurements for them if they like. It's a little bit more cumbersome, but we have that type of testing capabilities that we offer to our customers, which I don't believe our competitors are doing it to any level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the car wash industry has been booming, and it's becoming more and more competitive every day. And so, I mean, to actually have that data, to share with your customers and to know that everybody wants to do a good job. I mean, it has to be very valuable to know that you're using the best chemistry.
Absolutely. It also takes away a good, and excuse the expression, snake oil salesman going into a car wash and say, hey, our stuff is great, look, and they'll go ahead and do the demo and it looks great. Where a salesman competing against a slick salesperson can go in there and say, that's probably true, but here, let me show you their stuff versus our stuff on this data set. We did it blind. We have an outside lab, and that's the only thing we can offer. You can send us the samples blind. We can do the data generation. And it may help you when you're up against a competitor to show this is an outside lab data. Their stuff is okay. Ours is better. And here's the data to show it.
That definitely kind of takes the bullets away from a gunslinger.
That's right.
He doesn't stand much of a chance.
That's right. And that's what we're all about. I mean, my background and my team are very technically driven.
Yeah.
We're all about the chemistry and ultimately the data to support what we say it's going to do.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today, Steve. Is there anything more you'd like to share with our audience before we say goodbye?
I do appreciate the opportunity. I hope that from this, more and more people will appreciate the fact that be starting to challenge some of the claims being made and look to us to help you substantiate whatever you want to do in terms of shine, durability, protection, and certainly sustainability.
I have one more question. If somebody wanted your lab to do testing and they weren't a customer of yours, do you offer that service? Like, could somebody that doesn't know you, utilize your lab to test their product and make sure they're doing a good job?
Yeah, we can talk through that. If there's a way that there's an advantage for both of us, absolutely. Cool. If there's a way of marketing the results we have together to their customers or to our customers, I think that's something we'd be more than happy to work with them on.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to visiting your lab. It sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a lab. It's a very good lab. So nothing like your video equipment you have here, that's for sure. But the data we generate is pretty exciting, especially for us nerds.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, you're very welcome. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a real pleasure to get a chance to sort of share with you about what we do and how we do what we do. Thank you.
And thank you for taking the time to join us for this episode of Wash Talk. I'm your host, Brian Ankey. Today, my guest has been Steve Savastano from Rudolf Technologies. We hope to see you again soon.